So revision shoulder arthroplasty is a very complex problem. And what I believe is that if you have a very complex problem, you break the big problem into smaller problems. And I like to fix up every small problem, and then the big problem gets solved. So what I've been doing for quite a few years now is I've converted all my revision arthroplasty into a single stage procedure. And I've been doing this since 2018 now, so it's 5 years roughly, 4.5 years. And I've converted it into a single stage, two-step process. The patient needs to be medically stable to tolerate a 6 to 7 hour operation. They need to be a type A and B host, and there should not be any gram-negative organisms in the shoulder. So what I do is in the step one, I debride and explant the implant. I dissect the plexus, I tag the tendons, and then I cover the joint with vancomycin, put vancomycin in the joint, close the skin. We go have lunch, and then we come back, and then we re-prep and re-drape, and there's a new set of nurses, new instruments, and we go back in and reconstruct the shoulder. And for this, it's really important to have preoperative planning for your reconstruction, which is done. And I'll talk a bit about that. So in step number one, I'm going to debride everything meticulously. I'm going to explant all the implants, tag all the tendons and the nerves, and dissect the plexus. Because if the plexus is caught, or especially the axillary nerve is caught, it's a big risk and a big problem for postoperative pain. So it's a team approach. I always used my same team for this operation. It's a very extensile approach, so deltopectoral approach is used. Everything's debrided, everything's explanted very carefully. Then I save the attachments of latissimus dorsi, teres major, and pec major, because often you need to do tendon transfers because of deficiency of the cuff. I lavage the joint with 12 to 14 liters. Then I do a second loop debridement. And then I put 2 grams of vancomycin in the shoulder, and then I close the wound. And then I said we re-prep and drape and come back with new instruments, and then have a second loop debridement again. And then I reconstruct the glenoid. And then I'll talk about the joint line philosophy, which I have here, which I want to reconstruct the glenoid. And I want to reconstruct the humerus, either with metal or an allograft prosthetic complex. And then most important bit is to reattach all the tendons to ensure that there's stability. And then at the end, the plexus is checked. I give all my patients IV cefazolin or vancomycin plus lincomycin for 2 weeks. And then I check about the cultures. If the cultures are negative at 2 weeks, then I give them oral clindamycin for 6 weeks and rifampicin for 6 weeks. If the cultures are positive, they get IV lincomycin for 6 weeks with oral clindamycin, and usually IV cefazolin and lincomycin with rifampicin for 3 months. So now we'll talk about a concept about what do we do. So one of the very important concepts I've learned is that it's very important to create the normal joint line. And this is the work I did when I did my master's many, many years ago, is looked at where the normal joint line is. And it's roughly 8 to 10 millimeters. It's 8 millimeters in a female and 10 millimeters in a male from the base of the coracoid. And it's like a soccer field. So this is where the zero line is. When we have bone loss, or when we do a reverse shoulder replacement, we are always lateralizing the joint line. So it doesn't matter whether you use a Grammont design or you use an onlay design, your joint line is always lateralized. When we have revisions, the joint line is always medialized. So it's really important to understand that the first thing which we have to do is get this joint line back to normal. And this can be done either with metal or this can be done with bone, and that's the dealer's choice, because then that gives you a benchmark as to where you need to put your humerus and your soft tissues to be able to give stability. So this is a case, of a reverse shoulder replacement, and this is a complication which occurred within 3 years. It's not one of my cases, but this patient has had an acromial stress fracture. They've had notching. They've had an oversized stem which has been put in, so there's significant stress shielding, and everything's gone wrong in this case. So how do we tackle things like this? And this brings about the concept of humeral length, which is really important to restore as well, not only the glenoid length. And in cases like this, I've been using preoperative planning for revisions now for over 5 years. And this really helps you figure out where the joint line needs to be. When you have tuberosity escape at the back, how can we get the tuberosity back and restore function? So this is a patient who had a failed RSA, 18 months post-op. It was done by a very good surgeon. Unfortunately, it failed, and it was not infected. And this is a case I did when I came back from fellowship in 2016. And this is the kind of bone defects you often deal with when the grafts fail quite miserably. The glenoid is pencil thin. You have a scapular spine, which is 4 centimeters medial. And at that point of time, I did not have preoperative planning for this case, and I just, did it. But then later on, when we develop preoperative planning and when you can segment with metal already in there, this is the way the graft looks like. And now if I would plan this case now, this is what this bone defect would look like if I went into this case with preoperative planning with metal in situ. So this is what I did. I bone grafted this case with femoral allograft, and I was able to restore the joint line back to normal. And this is their 2-year post-operative CT, shows that the graft's completely incorporated. So it's really important to restore the joint line and restore so that the function can get restored. And this shows how the joint line's restored. And this is the function you get for a patient like this who had quite an unsalvageable reverse shoulder replacement, who was doing really well. So now, since the last 2 years, we've taken this further and we are using, we can give quite advanced measurements of bone loss and version and inclination in the keeping of metal. And this has been developed into a service which, surgeons across the world can use for complex arthroplasty where the implants are already there. And, this is coupled with the use of mixed reality now and holograms, which allow us as surgeons to plan multiple different implants, multiple different plans for your revision. You can have a plan A, plan B, plan C, and have holograms for all of these plans, which you can't really do with just simple PSI guides. And the future here is going to be navigation of this with the guided holograms, which will be very soon. So, this is how the holograms really help us during the surgery, and it really helps you see beyond the wall because you can see the whole scapula. You can manipulate the whole scapula, and it really helps us in revision arthroplasty. So now it's not just about bone. We all know arthroplasty is a soft tissue operation, and it's really important to restore function. And this, is one of the dissections I did when I visited Chanaka in his lab. He's got an amazing cadaveric lab and a facility there in Thailand. And this is the latissimus dorsi, and you can see how close the axillary nerve is to the latissimus dorsi, and all of this soft tissue needs to be maintained. And if we don't maintain the soft tissue, then we get problems later on. And it's very important to see that the latissimus dorsi is running in one direction and the teres major is running in a different direction, because often in cases like this where you have symptomatic instability of a reverse, in a case like this, all I have done here is then gone in and done a latissimus dorsi transfer to this patient, and that stabilized the joint completely, and I upsized the polyethylene. Another difficult situation where you have a periprosthetic fracture and notching and a loose glenoid and a loose humerus, the arms in a sling, what do you do? In a case like this, I've restored this with, a humeral allograft and then done a whole heap of tendon transfers here to give stability. And this is the kind of function you can get in this patient in 6 months who could not get hand to mouth for over 2 years. So I wanted to talk a few things about hemiarthroplasty and fractures because that's a very common revision which is done in Asia. So this is a chap who's had a hemiarthroplasty which failed, and he had this for 25 years. And no hemiarthroplasty is without problems in the long run. So in my career, I've hardly ever done any hemiarthroplasties because I've seen that the scores of the patients post-operatively are very poor. So if we embark on a case here without planning, this is the CT scan you have. And then what this gets converted into is a very complex plan which shows you how significant your bone loss is. And then when you can look at the other side and compare this with the other side of the patient or a statistical shape model, you can understand how much of the joint line needs to be recreated, what kind of version and bone loss we've got, which allows you in a very reliable manner then to see what the bone loss is intraoperatively and how the holograms really help guide this operation. And then this is that patient post-operatively. And these are his functional scores on the platform. So we have a whole platform which marries function of the patient with planning. And you can see that, the range of motion and strength and function constantly keep improving. Infections. I've been doing all infections as a single stage, and this is a patient who unfortunately had a sinus fistula. He had good movement, but he had an open sinus fistula, and I did a single stage revision on him. And this is his function 6 months post-operatively with a single stage revision with implant retention. This is another patient who has quite a bad infection who's come to me, and I removed everything here and reconstructed everything in a same setting in a two-step single stage procedure, and they've done well. Proximal humerus fractures are a big challenge, and I find this is one of the hardest arthroplasties to perform. And most surgeons take on reverse shoulder replacement after a failed ORIF, but I will caution you that this is one of the hardest joint replacements to perform. So if you look at an X-ray, this might not look that bad. This person has an active elevation of 10 degrees only. When we convert this into a three-dimensional plan or a CT scan, the story changes quite a lot. And then you can start analyzing the malrotation of the humeral head, the penetration of the screws, the tight joint capsule, and what needs to be done to the glenoid. Often there's a windscreen wipering effect. But these can be done well, and this is the end result with the reverse in these patients. And you can see for someone who had very poor function to start with, the range of motion constantly keeps improving. And the fractures just keep getting more and more complicated. This is a 73-year-old patient. I've done this a few months ago. Had a long history of multiple operations, very poor function. This is their preoperative plan for a complex situation like this. And then, with the planning software with revisions, you're really able to plan, take the metal out, analyze how you're going to position the graft, and if you can get a stem in a malunited humerus like this, what kind of stem do you need, what kind of implants you need, etc., etc. And then this is what I did for this patient. I revised it all in a single stage procedure. Again, we were able to get a normal stem in despite the malunion. And this is her function. She's only 2 months post-op after a single stage revision for someone who had an active elevation of only 20 degrees preoperatively. So she had very poor function for almost 10 years. And you can get really good, functional outcome of someone who's just only 8 weeks after surgery. This is a case I've done this week. Another, constant score of 36, functional ASES score of 13, very poor function, failed ORIF. You can see there is a greater tuberosity escape. And this is the biggest problem after a failed ORIF. When you have a GT escape, is to get this back to get external rotation. You can see this patient has no ER. When we plan this case, the whole GT is malunited. The axillary nerve is stuck between that fracture and that bone. And I know that this is going to be a really complex case. And I really like to thank the partnership with Zimmer Biomet here, where we've been able to use our preoperative planning at Acuna with the CADs of Zimmer Biomet here to enable me to do these complex cases. And we've been able to plan this case with multiple different stem options to see what would work, a short stem, a long stem, a stubby stem, and what if I have to do an osteotomy to get the GT back on, and what kind of screws I need to remove. So this, if you can see here, a couple of the screws have been put under the plate. So I would not have known this if I did not do the preoperative planning, and then I planned to cut the plate off so that I could get my stem in position. The glenoid was relatively easy. So this is the osteotomy, which is a very important point of the operation, is that you have to mobilize the GT completely because this needs to be reattached again. The axillary nerve was stuck here. I had to chisel it out with an osteotome, so it took quite a few hours. But we were able to achieve a good result, and it was exactly like what we had preoperative planned. So I'll stop here. We've got really good results of these, and I won't talk about this. We see the forward elevation is significantly improved. External rotation, more importantly, we've got 40 degrees of external rotation on our patients. The hospital stay is reduced. The patient satisfaction is over 86%. And most importantly, there's a significant reduction in cost for people as well. So even in complex defects like this, single stage revisions can give us really good results. And I would recommend people to, embark on this journey, especially those who are used to doing arthroplasty and want to embark on revision arthroplasty. Thank you.